At the time that I was in that concentration camp, I would say there was about maybe 1,200 or 1,600 of us.
Yeah.
There was about 400 Australian officers on one side of the camp, and the rest are Americans. And we stayed out there because we were ordered by the Army, by General MacArthur, to keep ourselves in the camp until told to evacuate. See. But some of the Americans couldn't wait. They walked right out and rode the train to Tokyo and waved at the American troops coming in. And we were in concentration camp. The Army was ordered to stay out of concentration camp and put civilian police to take care and watch us. So when the civilian police were out there, they stayed out and guard outside. We just walked right out. We cared less, as to what they're going to do. So we just walked right out and go out to town. The first thing I did was go out to town, and well, everybody was hungry. They were all looking for food. But I needed a shave, so I had one Japanese woman shave me all my eyelashes, all that. Give me a shave. Can you give me a shave? Didn't say a word. Just said, give me a shave. Yeah. I figured if she's going to cut my throat, she's going to cut my throat. She didn't. I buried my own lieutenant. I was on burial detail in Cabanatuan, and every day we used to bury about maybe 100, 110, depending on how many died of dysentery, how many died of malaria. And I buried my own lieutenant. We used to go out there and rush and look for the smallest body that we could pick, to put in our litter. We have a bamboo litter. We put the dead in, and we carry them on each side. We go on down to the cemetery and bury them like this, crisscross, and maybe about 30 or 40 in one grave. See? And while that's going on and it's raining, we're digging another grave, and the blood's right out there, and the blood is on our legs. We don't have any shoes, and our arms. And we go out there, wash it out there in the river. Yes, you keep track of wherever they were with their dog tags. And some of them were lost, and some of those guys that died didn't have no dog tags, so they got them on the unknown side.
What happened to Grandpa?
Oh, your grandpa, I understand when we were in Camp O'Donnell, I met your grandpa's friend, an old retired sergeant from the Army, Mr. White. Patrick White, and he managed to make it from Bataan on down to the camp. And I asked Mr. White, have you ever seen my dad on the death march as we were walking, because I was trying to look for him. He says, yes, but so. One day, while we're in concentration camp, this guy named Johnson was captured back from that area of Pampanga. We thought he deserted. But he crossed the line and went out there, and he did desert, actually. But you don't consider that because during the war, you could get out behind the lines and do something. He got captured out there. And the first thing he asked was, I guess my dad knew him and talked to him and told him that he had a son that was in the Army, and it turned out the same company as I was. And so he asked the sergeant that was still there whether I was there. Richard Breslin says yes. He says, I know his father. And so he was the one that told me where Papa got buried. He died in Lubao, Pampanga. He couldn't make it. He caught up with dysentery and malaria. Everybody had malaria at the time. I mean, I had malaria where it goes into your brain, you know, where you have a fever and a chill, and you wake up, you know, after a while, you know, you kind of, you know, the fever's slowing down. One day I was blind. I couldn't see nothing. I was just plain blind. That's how bad that malaria was. But I made sure that I'd keep myself alive because I had dysentery and malaria. I went native and also traded my food for quinine and Atabrine. You know, some guys were bringing that quinine and Atabrine, and they figured, well, food is going to keep them alive forever. For me, that medicine is going to keep me alive, see. So I trade my chow and get those pills, and I'm taking that pills until I knocked that malaria out. And on dysentery, I went for barks of bark of a native tree.
Yeah.
And I cook it. And it turned kind of reddish.
Yeah.
And I drink that. And it stopped that malaria. I mean, that dysentery. I did everything. Guava leaves. You know, there's green guava leaves. I'd eat that. You know, you see those guava leaves. I'd eat that. That's the way it is. It's bitter as hell, you know. But keep me going. Keep me alive. Grass. I eat a lot of grass. You know, if the cows eat grass, I eat grass too. It keeps me alive. I ate grass one day in Japan. I ate a root. I thought it was some kind of a potato. Then it killed me. It's just some kind of a, you know, it was sticking right in my throat. It almost poisoned me. I had to go see the doctor. I don't know. So I ate this. It looked like a potato. It turned out it's poisoning. I said, you crazy. He said, why are you doing that? I said, well, I'm hungry. What do you think? You're hungry, you eat anything. I've seen guys frying rats. Of all things, house rat. They're frying that rat.
Oh my God.
God, I can't do that. I can eat grass. I can eat grass.
So how did you get back to the Philippines?
Well, when the war was over, when they finally decided to pull all that prisoner of war in that area, they took us out to a grouping area, and then took us down to Sendai. And on that bay out there was a hospital ship that's waiting for us, and took out that hospital ship. And by the time we hit the door of that, you know, entrance to the side of the ship where they're waiting for us, they says, take all your clothes off, bare, put it on that side. We come through and they spray us, whatever, you know, we got. They said, go take a shower. And then they give us new clothes and examine us and see how we feel. Everybody was big and strong, 87 pounds, 90 pounds. Geez, what do you expect? After 3.5 years.
You see Grandma then? When did you see your mom?
Well, I decided I wanted to go back to the Philippines to see where your mother is. I mean, where Mama is. Well, I know what was left over out there was Sis, Tom, Tony, Bob, and Mama. You know, the young ones should be out there with Mama, see. So they took us to Alabang Farms, and that's where the concentration of U.S. Army personnel was interviewed, asked where we wanted to be sent. At that time, I took off to Manila to go back to Malati to see if the house is still there. The only thing I saw was flat ashes. Nothing was standing out there except tall buildings like the Admiral, you know, apartments and what have you, you know. They reserved that, but the whole area was just torn out. He was just blown out. The war just wiped them all out. So I just, at that time, just tears was rolling my eyes. I said, my God, the whole family died. I said, everything is out. I couldn't figure how could they come out alive. So I decided I wanted to go back to I want to go to the United States. I'm not young anymore then. I was going 26, so I'm not. So while I was out there waiting for transportation, along comes Tom with Mama looking for us. Tom checked the University of Santo Tomas, American side, find out if there's any prisoner named Richard Breslin. They said, yes, he's out there in Alabang. So they went out there in Alabang. That's where I see your grandma and Tom. Tom was so skinny, and your grandma looked like a puny old lady. I mean, she was so skinny. Everybody was, lost a lot of weight during the war. So that was it. There, I couldn't change my mind, except to go to the States. That's how I did. I went to the States and found out that your Uncle Frank was out here, So I got to see them when I went out to Long Beach, and I applied for. Because then Tom, Tony, and Bob were coming over, and I needed a house for them to stay. So I went and applied for public housing, so they give me a public housing, on an emergency side to house the family. Your Uncle Frank picked him up, and your Uncle Frank said they looked like young Army boys, but they were still small guys. The only thing that we were able to defend ourselves is we had Garand rifles, which fires almost semi-automatic because it fires eight bullets. You put that thing on a chamber and start shooting, you can shoot 8 bullets. And the Japanese showed us the battle that we fought against them in Abukai, and they say, American machine gun. They thought we were all using machine gun because we had these Garand rifles. That was our advantage. When it comes to frontline fighting, we had a good chance. But once they start pinpointing us, they start throwing that mortar at us. We don't have any mortars to back us up. And that was the major trouble. We didn't have any mortars. We didn't have any air support.
How did you deal with all the hardships? I mean, did you pray? Did you have good friends that talked you through it? I mean, how did you handle all that awful stuff?
Well, I was young and foolish, I guess, and the devil may care, so I didn't care about. All I did is when I'm going through a shelling, and I see the shell is hitting this way, and I have to go through that shelling, I made a sign of a cross, and when I hit that side there, just about every 10 feet, I hit the ground. Maybe one of the guys on the side in there, just barely like this, and he's dead. Brains are blown out, what have you. But I managed to scoot out of there. What, when we were in
yeah, when you said you were in
we
the
were
ship,
on the ship,
the ship with the coal bin for 3 days and no food.
You can live with nothing for about maybe a week and be okay. There's no problem with that. But the trouble is you can't stand out there and keep yourself awake all week. Sooner or later you're going to collapse. I was a strong guy then. So I was able to stand all that rigor. And now I wouldn't last a couple of hours. Boy, That's probably the reason why I was drinking, you know, it drives you to drink, you know, and sometimes you forget about what you went through in life. And that's the worst thing that a person should do. He should avoid drinking. When you have a problem, you know that you have a psychological problem, you should lay off booze. Booze is no help. But in order to forget, you know, you drink. So there's many days that I drink. I drink myself to forget.
So that was your therapy?
Sort of, but that's no therapy. Now that I'm old, I know it didn't help. It didn't help a bit. I should have done a little different.
Some say you have 9 lives, you know. Auntie Marilyn always says that about you. You're a cat.
I guess so. I think I got a guardian angel. It's warning me, you know, just how things are. But sooner or later he's going to get tired. Yeah.
Well, you have a legacy now. I don't think any of these boys would ever become a soldier without figuring they could be as tough as you.
Yeah, those days were quite a thing. Never realized, you know, that I get this old now, 80 years old. Huh? See, that's 58, almost 59 years ago. It's a long time. Yeah.